Welcome to Star Watch Now, your front row seat to all the hottest gossip, drama, and breaking news from the world of entertainment. If it's trending, shocking, or star-studded, we're covering it. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss what's coming next. 5 years ago, before the storms and the headlines, a producer looked at a young Wang Yibo and called him a world superstar. Today, that same producer, Cheng Er's wife, has dropped a line so bold it set the internet alight. Was it praise, provocation, or a masterclass in vision? Na's remark did not arrive in a vacuum. As the executive producer behind The Mermaid, a forthcoming project fronted by Wang Yibo alongside the acclaimed Tang Wei, she speaks from within the engine room where reputations are made or remade. By anchoring her assessment to an earlier moment, I recognized him as a world superstar 5 years ago. She challenges the audience to rethink cause and effect in celebrity narratives. Instead of attaching praise to the safest point in a career, when consensus is already formed, she situates her conviction before the noise, implying that what now appears inevitable once required judgment, risk, and the willingness to be out of step. It is also a quiet reading of the industry's conscience. Entertainment often rewards hindsight. It prefers to celebrate only after the tide turns. Na's timing suggests a different ethic, that discernment matters most when the outcome is uncertain, that loyalty to potential is a test of professional courage, and that a producer's faith is not merely a marketing device but a responsibility to the work and the audience. Her sentence therefore functions on 2 levels. It frames The Mermaid not as a routine star vehicle but as the continuation of a long bet on craft and growth. And it invites a more thoughtful conversation about how we measure world-class. Not only by headlines or velocity, but by the accumulation of choices, training, versatility, discipline, that make those headlines possible. Whether one embraces or questions her phrasing, the significance lies in its perspective. She is not asking viewers to accept a label. She is asking them to consider the story behind it, to weigh intention as well as impact, and to watch the new film with the curiosity reserved for an artist whose trajectory was once a question, and is now a challenge to see more clearly. To call anyone a world superstar is to step onto contested ground, because the phrase carries weight far beyond applause. It invites the listener to consider not just fame but scale, endurance, and the silent ledger of work that sustains both. That is why Na's wording lands with such force. On the surface it sounds audacious, even premature. Beneath it lies a challenge to the way we ration recognition. We are comfortable with praise when it follows triumph, less so when it anticipates it. Her choice of words risks ridicule precisely because it resists the safety of hindsight, and in doing so it frames boldness not as swagger but as accountability. If she is wrong, the statement will age poorly. If she is right, it will read as professional clarity expressed at the unfashionable time. The discomfort some feel is revealing. It exposes a habit of confusing loud visibility with genuine reach, and it exposes a preference for tidy narratives in which achievement arrives before endorsement. Na inverts that sequence. She names the destination while the journey is still being walked, implying that what qualifies an artist for such a title is less a single trophy than a pattern of intention. The discipline to train, the curiosity to stretch, the composure to absorb scrutiny without shrinking. Is that too bold? Or simply an honest articulation of criteria that many apply in private but few voice in public? The question is not whether the phrase is big. It is whether the vision behind it can bear the scrutiny of time. That is the provocation. It does not demand our agreement. It asks us to pay attention, to watch with a keener eye, and to allow the possibility that courage sometimes sounds like naming a truth before the room is ready to hear it. Proof, when it matters, is rarely a single headline. It is the quiet accumulation of choices that make the headline plausible. In Wang Yibo's case, perspective begins with the work most people never see. The long rehearsals that harden timing, the dialect drills that sand away vanity, the choreography that teaches breath control and discipline, the bruising process of retakes until the movement looks effortless. Layered over time, those habits turn visibility into credibility. On screen, the path from idle drama to more demanding material is not an accident but a series of wagers on craft. Learning to hold stillness without draining a scene of life, allowing silence to carry meaning, refining physical presence so it serves character rather than personality. Off-screen, The willingness to step into documentary and stage formats signals curiosity about range and a tolerance for risk, both of which tend to precede longevity. International traction charts, sold-out events, cross-border endorsements matters less as bragging rights than as evidence that narrative, performance, and image can travel across language and culture without losing coherence. Awards and lists, when they appear, are useful milestones, but the deeper indicator is consistency. The ability to show up, improve in public, and weather objections without sourness. From this angle, Wu Na's assertion is not a demand that we accept a title. It is an invitation to examine the pattern that might justify it. If you trace the line of small, unfashionable decisions, extra coaching, physical conditioning, rehearsal discipline, the humility to be directed, you start to see how momentum is built. Proof is the pattern, and perspective is the patience to read it. Whether one agrees with her phrasing or not, the balance of evidence suggests an artist intent on converting attention into ability and ability into trust. That is a more persuasive foundation for any grand label than noise alone. Wu Na's sentence also works as a mirror held up to the industry's reflexes. Its love of hindsight, its fear of sticking its neck out, its habit of baptizing success only after it is safe to do so. We congratulate ourselves on discernment when the numbers are already in, but the truth is that most systems, press, platforms, even awards, reward caution dressed as wisdom. Early belief is unfashionable because it carries risk, and risk has no constituency. Her timing therefore exposes a quiet hierarchy. Who is allowed to confer legitimacy, when and on what terms? It highlights the gap between the rhetoric of supporting talent and the reality of gatekeeping that often demands perfection before it offers permission. It also challenges a metrics-only morality in which streams, ratings, and brand tallies become a proxy for artistic worth, while the labor that produces those metrics, training, range, composure, is treated as incidental. By naming her conviction before consensus, Wu Na reframes professional courage as a duty rather than a flourish, reminding us that producers are not mere marketers but stewards who should absorb some of the uncertainty they ask artists to carry. The line presses on another bruise: our appetite for comeback narratives that quietly erase who stood by in the unglamorous middle when progress looked like plateau. If the industry wants integrity as well as spectacle, it must learn to recognize trajectory, not only trophies, to value the uneventful seasons where craft is built, to practice endorsement with accountability rather than weather-vaned praise. In that sense, the debate around her words is healthy. It forces a reckoning with how reputations are minted, how narratives are edited, and whether we, as audiences and commentators, collude in celebrating only the finish line while ignoring the people who dared to point at it when it was still a distant shape. The easiest reading of Wu Na's line is Publicity, a timely flourish to heat interest around a new release. But there is another, harder reading, Foresight, which insists on a slower audit. Publicity hunts for volume and velocity. Foresight is quieter, risking reputation on patterns that are not yet fashionable. One trades in amplification, the other in prediction. To decide which this is, we should test the claim against time. Has the work diversified? Has the craft thickened? Has influence traveled without collapsing under scrutiny? If the answers lean yes, then bold language begins to look less like spin and more like professional memory finally spoken aloud. There is also a moral difference. PR flatters in order to sell. Foresight backs in order to build. The first follows momentum. The second helps create it. Perhaps Wu Na's sentence is both. A strategic spark that also records a private conviction she held years earlier. If so, the question for us is not whether marketing exists, but whether substance is present enough to carry it with integrity. In a culture that rewards safe consensus, naming potential early can feel provocative. It may also be the most honest service a producer can offer to an artist and an audience. Instead of passive viewing, let's turn this conversation into a living archive built by the audience. In the comments, name the exact moment you first thought he might travel globally. Be precise with a year, a venue, a scene, or even a single line delivery, and tell us why it stayed with you. Offer a 2-sentence micro-review of a performance choice that changed your mind. A pause, a shift of gaze, a line read that felt newly grounded. If you're a craft-minded viewer, start a mini scene study. Describe the beat before and after a key action without posting clips, focusing on pacing, breath, and intention. Add yourself to a community map by writing the city you're watching from and how you discovered him. Together we can sketch the path of influence across borders. For balance, contribute to a respectful debate thread. If you lean PR or foresight, state one concrete reason and one counterpoint you still wrestle with. Finally, share a brief note to your past self. What would you tell the you of 5 years ago about judging talent early? These practices invite pride without noise, skepticism without cynicism, and a shared curiosity that outlives a single headline. Perhaps the bravest thing in entertainment isn't shouting the loudest. It's believing early, staying steady, and letting the work speak. Bold? Yes. But sometimes bold is just another word for honest conviction.